The drawings and writings that we are about to look at are the work of one child we call Iris. This is a pseudonym given to her by a group of researchers and educators who catalogued and studied her work and the work of 35 other children in the early 80s at the Prospect Archive and Center for Education and Research in North Bennington, Vermont. These 36 children attended the Prospect School, which was founded in 1965 and operated until 1991. The school's guiding principle was articulated by Frederick Froebel in 1899 when he wrote The Education of Man. What he said was that the purpose of teaching and instruction is to bring ever more out of man rather than to put more into him. For that which can get into man we already know and possess as the property of mankind. What human nature has yet to develop, that we do not yet know. A hallmark of the school's program was known as activity time, a period of 45 minutes to an hour several times each week, when the children had the choice of working with a range of open-ended materials, including paint and a variety of art materials, props and costumes for dramatic productions, blocks and other construction materials, a well-equipped kitchen for culinary creations, fabric and textiles for sewing, weaving, and knitting, as well as clay, sand, and water, and whatever might be needed to carry out the projects that the children came up with. The tangible products created by the children, as well as photos of some of the projects that could not be saved, were collected over the years in an archive, which eventually housed tens of thousands of items. Most of Iris's work that we will be looking at was created during this self-directed activity time, when Iris chose and used materials to give life to the ideas in her head. In this early drawing, Iris leaves a variety of marks as she moves her hand somewhat randomly and somewhat purposefully over the paper with a brown marker. We tend to dismiss these early gestural drawings as scribbles, but if we look closely, we will see elements here that recur again and again in later drawings. Look, for example, at the heavy line that goes straight up on the left side, turns at an angle, and curves up to the top of the page, then down on the right side of the drawing. This is a characteristic line that Iris makes in many early scribbles and drawings. We will eventually see how it evolves into an arch or passageway. Notice also the circular figures inside and beneath the heavy brown line. There is a jaunty, rhythmic quality to those lines. In the upper right corner is a little figure with 2 points on top, a curved line joining them across the bottom, and a couple of dots. At the bottom of the page is something that looks like an animal with a tail, a rudimentary body, and a head with black dots for eyes. Watch for similar elements in future slides. This is a busy picture with a variety of lines and interesting figures, faces, and little buildings. When examined in detail, it has the quality of a map of some sort of story. Notice the shape of the reddish line and how it defines the space, with some figures and action inside of it and others on the outside. Again, a busy picture. In this one, a blue line encloses a space with red and blue lines inside of it. Notice the shape of the heavy blue line that creates a distinct arch shape in the middle of the picture, and the lighter blue line that almost follows it. In this painting, you can see the same type of line as in the earlier drawings, now used to create concentric rainbow arches that shelter a human figure. Notice the pointed lines that create the impression of a crown on the head of the figure, which are reminiscent of the pointed lines in the first drawing. Here, Iris squares off the curve of the arch so that it looks more like a doorway. The figure under the arch, or going through the doorway, depending on how you look at it, again has the impression of a crown on its head. 2 other figures with angular bodies stand in front of and outside of the arch. The angles and postures of the bodies create a sense of movement. Both figures in this drawing are crowned and seem to be either in motion or blown by an invisible wind. Again, we have 2 crowned figures. Above them is a series of concentric circles with a red center. Notice the design on the dress of the figure on the right. Concentric triangles or pointed arches. This is a delightfully simple portrait of a crowned figure sauntering along and swinging a bag or something. One can almost hear the little girl humming a cheerful tune to herself. This painting creates an entirely different mood. The heavy lines and dark colors convey intensity. The fainter lines on the left give the impression of a figure peeking out from behind the large, intense face. Notice how the blue hairline around the large face is similar to the arching line used in previous drawings. We are now going to look at work that Iris did as a 6-year-old. In this picture, Iris places a female figure under a rather pointed arch that at first looks like a rainbow because of the striped colors. However, she uses black as the inside band of color, which, next to the green band, just as easily creates the impression of a hill. The shapes attached to the top of the arches are similar to Iris's crowns, but perhaps they could also be buildings on a hill. The figure under the arches has blue and red hair topped by a red crown or large bow. Her dress has that familiar sway to it that evokes movement. The crowned figure in the foreground of this picture has an elaborate design of concentric arches on it. The figure in the background is plainer and a little mysterious looking, with a long veil or scarf draped from the head. In the bottom left there is something round, black, and spidery looking. There is a story in Iris's journal that could have been written to go with this picture. Once there was a girl named Cinderella. She went to the ball, and some bugs went to the small little ball, and after that the bugs took a bath. Then they went home. There are a number of interesting and humorous elements in this drawing, but the one I want to point out is a series of concentric arches on the right with the small rectangle in the center that creates the impression of a door at the end of a passageway or tunnel. Such an image raises questions. What is down that passage? What is on the other side of the door? In this picture, there is a colorful figure with an elaborate headpiece, a house of cards, and a sun in the sky. Many of Iris's drawings have a fairy tale quality to them, but not necessarily a specific story. They seem to depict scenes from a story that is in Iris's mind, in which she draws on elements from familiar stories to create her own. Here is another scene with great story potential. A house stands behind a picket fence. Someone with a pointed red hat faces left, looking at something yellow coming out of something red. Behind this figure, and behind a large tree, a slinky and perhaps ghostly lady seems to be tiptoeing off the page. Is the slinky lady escaping from an evil witch? Or has she just played some nasty trick on a nice person and is avoiding detection? Now we move on to Iris as a 7-year-old. Often Iris's drawings are like stage sets, with just the essential components, but not a lot of context. Here she has skillfully used lines and shading in the building to indicate that it is a log house. The woman has something on her head and is wearing a long dress. She is bent over, holding a stick that is poking into the ground. Behind her is a pail with a handle holding what appears to be carrots. A few green lines are sticking up in the lower right of the page. With a minimum of details, Iris has conveyed a scene of a pioneer woman working in her garden. Iris gets to the heart of the matter in her writing as well, with the minimum amount of context and detail. Here is her poetic version of Snow White and the 7 Dwarfs. Once upon a time there lived a pretty princess, had a pretty baby, and she bit into an apple, and a prince came along. The end. There are many portraits of strong female figures in Iris's collection. Each one conveys a different mood and personality. Iris obviously practiced drawing facial features and became skilled at using the face to reveal something about the inner life of the person. Notice how the shape of this head is reminiscent of the arching lines she used in her early gestural drawings. Notice also how she conveys nuances of emotion and character with minimal details. Throughout Iris's collection, humor and whimsy alternate with serious purpose and depth of feeling. The layout of this drawing is reminiscent of a board game with fairy tale characters moving between houses. At first, this drawing often gives viewers the impression of a blindfolded woman holding her arms out in front of her to help find her way. However, her eye is visible, and what looked like a blindfold is actually a mask. Here is another portrait, this time a picture of a picture. Notice how Iris is very selective about the details that she adds. The frame is detailed enough to indicate that it is quite fancy and has braces behind it. The figure, though small, has hair, eyebrows, nostrils, and a design or decoration on her clothing. There is also a round object in the picture that might be a ball she is tossing. Outside the picture and its frame, there is barely enough detail to indicate that the picture stands on a table or cabinet of some sort. This is a great example of Iris's humor and love of mystery. The lady is all dressed up with a drink in her hand. To her right is a dress floating in the air, apparently without a body in it. However, if you look very closely, you can see faint lines that go from the right sleeve of that dress over the lady's head and curve down to her glass. What is that almost invisible hand putting in her drink? This drawing and the writing that goes with it shows Iris's ability to hold and convey more than one perspective at a time. In the drawing, there are tiny figures engaged in a scene while a large face peers down from above. Iris writes, "Once a girl named Leah got married. Her friends were there. Mouse was there, and Bird was there, and I was there. It was really just a play." Iris includes the players and the observer at the same time. As an 8-year-old, Iris continued to work on portraits of strong female characters. In this one, all of her attention is on the face and hair, with little detail in the rest of the body. This series of scenes apparently depicts a story with fairy tale characters. There are even arrows to guide you in the right direction. In the center lower panel, we see the familiar concentric arches that here create a definite passageway into unknown territory. An ominous bat-like creature flies at the entrance, and a prone figure lies on the floor. Where does the passage lead, and what would someone brave enough to explore it find at the end? In this striking portrait, Iris uses stylized features to convey a distinct sense of inner character. The purposeful use of different shaped eyes is particularly effective. The youthful quality implied by the bows in the hair contrasts sharply with the maturity and world-weariness in the face. The strength and determination in this full-figure portrait is almost palpable. The thick black arch of hair surrounds a face that meets the viewer straight on. The direct gaze, strong eyebrows, set mouth, and lines around the cheekbones all add to the effect. On careful inspection, you can see that the bodice of the highly decorated dress contains a scene of a ship on water near land, perhaps in harbor. Is this scene part of this woman's inner story? And what are the things on the purple line in the bottom right of the picture intended to convey? Is that a cityscape? Notice on the bottom of the dress the familiar rainbow arches. This is one of the few pieces in the collection that emerged from an assignment, which was to create an image using the shape of the letter U. This was done when Iris was 9 years old. As you can see, the U became the entrance for the arched passageway in this castle. Perhaps it is a secret entrance, unknown to the knight brandishing his sword on the wall above. At this time, Iris also explores the use of secret passages in her writing. It was in the month of May when Sam, short for Samantha, was looking for secret passages in her 100-room house with her friend Jo, short for Joanne. They went upstairs, and Sam said, "I think my bedroom might have a secret passage. The fireplace looks suspicious. The lion's head looks like it might move." In fact, the lion's head does move, and the back of the fireplace opens to reveal a dark, gloomy, wet passage inhabited by bats and a black cat. The two girls have some scary adventures, but in the end, they find a hidden treasure in a loose brick, and all is well. This simple sketch of a Victorian house looks much like the one where Iris lived. In her journal, Iris states that she likes her house. She also describes other favorite places, such as the bog. The bog is a foggy type of place. Part of it is wet, and the other part is sort of dry. It's big and full of things to eat like golden thread and wintergreen berries, two very good things. Some of it is like a dreamland, and it's hard to climb the hill to get to the bog. When you go there, you want to stay until you check every trail. It's got so many seeds and vines, trees and bushes. I really like it there. This contemplative painting was completed when Iris was 10 years old. The brush strokes used for the tree branches are similar to those used in the Japanese style. The bare branches and the white that is painted on the left side of the tree, as well as the white background and the faint light in the upper right corner, all suggest a chilly, wintry scene. However, the figure under the tree is leaning back on her arms in a relaxed position. Perhaps this is someone who enjoys being outdoors in all sorts of weather. This is one of a trio of portraits that Iris created as a series. In this one, dark, straight hair and a red headband frame a youthful face with pale skin and rosy cheeks. The lips are glossy red, and the eyes are soft and dark with dark eyebrows. She wears a gold necklace with a red heart. On the bodice of her shirt are 3 figures in black skirts. The figure on the left is partially obscured by the black hair hanging over her shoulder. The figure in the center has a dark blue bodice, and the one on the right has a purple one. The sun is shining down in between those 2 figures. In the background, near the heads of the figures, are oval shapes on a horizon line. Below the horizon line is green ground, and above it is blue sky. In the background of this portrait is also a green and blue background with oval shapes on the horizon line, on either side of her head. The one on the right has some black lines in it, the one on the left is faint with little detail. Now let's look at the second portrait in the series. Again, dark hair frames a youthful face. However, this person is wearing a purple headband and has brown eyes. She wears a gold chain suspending a red heart with a blue center. The bodice is blue with a thin red trim. The background is green and blue with 2 oval shapes on the horizon line on either side of her head. The shape on the left has a tangle of black lines, and the one on the right has reddish dots. There is a hint of sun shining in the upper right. The third portrait has brown hair and a blue headband. The greenish eyes are darkly outlined. She wears a gold necklace with small red stones or beads on it. The bodice is purple with a rainbow-striped trim. The green and blue background again has 2 oval shapes on the horizon line on either side of the head. The shape on the left has red dots. The one on the right has some thin, jagged lines in it. There is a sun in the sky in the upper left corner. Here are the 3 portraits side by side. If you look at the backgrounds of the 3 pictures, you will see that the oval shapes, which I think of as bushes, that appear in between the first and second face are actually the same. They both have the tangle of black lines. And the bushes that appear between the second and third faces are also the same. They both have red dots. These details, plus the placement of the sun in between the second and third faces, and the colors of the shirts, make it safe to assume that these are the portraits of the 3 figures that appear on the bodice of the girl in the first picture. In fact, Iris had 2 very dear friends that she often refers to in her journal and includes in her stories. In these portraits, Iris seems to be expressing how much her friends are a part of her. In this picture, we see Iris at 11 years old using the arch again. This time, rather than being a dark, mysterious, and ominous passageway into unknown territory, it is a bright, colorful tunnel with a red carpet leading to a golden land with romantic promise. The guardian of this passage is a beribboned kitten resting on a cushion. In this scene, it is the foreground that remains vague and lacks detail. Iris continued to explore the possibilities of secret passages in her writing as well. She wrote a long story of several chapters about a family of 3 sisters who find a secret passage by climbing to the top of a waterfall and looking through a jewel. It leads them to a creature called a Peggy, who has magical powers and knowledge of the past. Along the way, a pet monkey becomes entangled in the action. In conclusion, I want to return to 2 of the earliest drawings in Iris's collection. In this gestural drawing, or scribble, we saw the up, around, and down line that later becomes arches, passages, and tunnels in Iris's drawings and writings. She uses this motif to explore scary, unknown territory. It later becomes the pathway to bright new lands that hold promise of romance, knowledge, and treasure. Iris also uses this arching line to frame facial features, which express the inner character of the people she depicts. In this early drawing, we saw the rudimentary form of a figure in motion sheltered under the arching line, which appears again and again in her work. There is also the pointed figure in the upper right, which is repeatedly used as a crown in later drawings, and the creature with a tail at the bottom of the picture, which later appears in many animal forms in drawings and stories. In this early drawing, we saw the nascent arch or doorway in combination with 3 figures, one of them wearing the pointed crown. This drawing points to the importance of relationships, fairy tales, and stories. All of these elements later show up consistently in Iris's work. As we look at Iris's collection of work, we gain a distinct impression of a real person with a unique mind and recognizable perspective on the world. The things that were important to her as a 5-year-old were still being explored by her, but at a more sophisticated level as an 11-year-old. Studying the collections of other children in the Prospect Archive reveals them as equally unique, distinct, and recognizable. The power to create images and stories from our own minds that reflect our personal perspectives on the world and that explore questions of importance is a universal capacity not limited by poverty or wealth, class or status, nationality or religion.